be blue. I want it to be true.
Deborah Danielson. I'm the host of the Rebel Podcast. We like to talk about things that can be fun, interesting, and maybe a little out there for some people. It has been on my mind. I guess I have cabin fever. Here it is, February. The winter's getting to me. In the upper Midwest, it has been very cold and dark. So I wanted to share some decorating ideas in this series. How to get expert advice without breaking the bank or challenging your budget to where you got the advice, now you can't afford to buy the furniture. Welcome to the Rebel Podcast. This is Deborah Danielson and my co-host, Waylon Carney. Welcome.
Hi.
From Palm Springs, California. And I'm in Iowa when company would come. Like in most of my rooms in my house that are common areas or public areas in the house, all the furniture is movable. You can move the couches, you can move the chairs. And when it depends on the room layout, depends on who's coming and what are we going to do. And we just rearrange the furniture. If the furniture feels stiff and awkward, then you're going to have a stiff, awkward, I don't know, conversation or whatever. But most people, when they're in that kind of situation, can't wait to leave so they can go outside and just exhale.
Well, and have you ever been in a big room where, there's like maybe like a banquette along the wall?
Yes.
You can't talk to one person that's on the other side. It's just like you're on one side and someone's on the other side, you can't talk to them, or someone's in a chair across the room and you can't talk to them without shouting. Most social interactions happen the best when you're in a small space
Right.
altogether, when you're just like, that's why people choose booths at restaurants, or
Yes.
really like you're close to each other. Rooms end up with furniture that's far apart from each other, which can look good, but it's not functional for conversation.
You have to be able to make it modular. That'll be part of some of the furniture design we're going to talk about later with the couches. And that,
Mhm.
I think, was one of the brilliant marks of some of these modular couches they came up with in the 70s. That you could move it around and reshape it based upon, hey, who's coming over? What kind of interaction are we going to have? We can break it down so that people can be a little bit more formal and then sit across from each other. Or we could put it all together and we can all pile in there and watch a movie,
Yeah, you can make it like a big bed or something,
Yeah,
it's
exactly. And that's good. I mean, I love furniture that's going to meet the need of whatever the occasion is we're trying to have. The doctor goes on here and shows another picture, and she goes on to say the most impactful principle of design on mental health is balance, which is what you're talking about, which basically means that all the furnishings in the space feel like they belong there. When the balance in a room is off, the furnishings don't feel like they belong there. It can make you feel uncomfortable, which is exactly what we're talking about.
and that could even be, proportion. I think proportion is actually probably the most important, because if you come into like a small room and it has this gigantic overwrought furniture, and
Yeah.
then things that just feel too big for the room, or sometimes things feel too small for the room. Like in your
Yeah.
house, you have really tall ceilings. If you had really spindly, short bookcases or something like that, it would look so odd.
Yes,
It
it
wouldn't be
does.
pleasing. I think proportion is is huge because it has to fit
Mhm.
the space.
Yeah, and that was really a hard thing for me to adjust to when I got this house. I couldn't just go down to a regular furniture store and buy furniture because it was too small.
Yeah,
And then you put it in the room and you're like, oh my God, that looks horrible.
right. It just
Yeah,
like dwarfs it and makes it disappear, almost. Or
exactly. This doesn't mean that pieces should necessarily have to match, but instead that there should be a subtle or indirect similarity from one space to the next space so that the home appears to be balanced and cohesive. It's more about the placement versus everything having, you don't have to go down to the furniture store and say, okay, I only want Barnhart furniture from the Barnhart collection of blah, 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 XYZ, and that's going to be the furniture for the front room. No. They're saying you can mix, match, and you can have kind of that eclectic look, but it's more about the placement and the spatial relationship. Okay. Cohesiveness is so important because it will help you make the home feel united rather than choppy, as if one room belonged to another house. You don't want to go from the front room to the maybe the gaming room or your TV room and have them feel like they're two parts of two different houses. You want to try to have some cohesiveness there so that it has a flow to it.
Right.
And there's a logic to the placement of the furniture. Cohesion is important because it makes rooms easier to digest. We've probably all had the unpleasant experience of walking into a room that is just too much to handle. More than likely, no matter how that room looked from your perspective, the reason why it hurt your eyes and your brain is that it lacked cohesion. Definitely relate to that. I've been in some people's houses that did have a bit of a hoarding situation, or they just collected things. Sometimes people get so overwrought on collecting that they can't let a thing go, and they just have so much of those kind of things, like Christmas
Yeah.
villages. Let's take Christmas villages. Some houses you go into have beautiful, elaborate Christmas villages in every single room of the house. You
You're
got to
right.
have
Yeah.
cohesion,
I
but
I
a
love a
little
Christmas
goes a
village.
long way, right?
Yeah, I love a Christmas village, but there's a time and there's a place, and
Yeah.
like you said, a little bit goes a long way. The great thing about Christmas decorations is that when you bring them out, when it's the coldest and darkest time of the year, the days are the shortest and they really brighten up a room. So it's kind of a treat to have all that stuff out. But
Yes.
if you're leaving it out all year, it becomes clutter.
Exactly. And you've lost the charm because your brain can't handle the clutter. And now you feel like you're trapped. Like you just want to run out of the house and scream.
To me, I love putting out Christmas decorations, but my favorite day of the year is the day after all the Christmas decorations have been put away and everything is clean. All the surfaces are cleared and you can see all the furniture again and everything. And plus, you take down the Christmas tree, so the living room feels, or whatever room it's in, it feels so much bigger. And that's like my favorite times. For me, having a Christmas village out all year would not work for me.
All right, now here's another study, and I hope I pronounced this properly because I don't know. According to Gestalt psychology, even though our eyes are constantly taking in information, our brains try and boil everything down to the simplest recognizable pattern. Using harmony and unity to create a sense of cohesion makes that initial pattern recognition very easy. Our brains categorize those repeated details and similarities much faster than they would if none of the design elements fit together, which subconsciously will allow us to be calmer when we're in the space. A seamless flow of the elements in the room allows the energy to flow equally seamlessly. And keep in mind, balance should always be more important than symmetry, like you were talking about. Have things be symmetry, around the windows, like the chairs, but it can feel totally out of balance.
Yeah, or dysfunctional. Yeah.
Very. So it says, keep in mind, balance should always be more important than symmetry. And these are different, they're different concepts. So symmetry and balance are different. If you have a room that has a focal point, don't try to make a balanced focal point, but let that be the focal point and let it be something that you're comfortable sitting around. Maybe like a fireplace. Or maybe
Yeah.
instead of having a couch around the fireplace, you just have a nice big rug that's fluffy and wonderful and some pillows. So you can lay on the floor and be in front of the fireplace. Yeah, maybe have a few seat cushions, but it's
Yeah.
comfortable. It's balanced, it's practical. Then it goes into a little bit about lighting here. A light drenched room is always a joyful experience. But did you know that sunlight also reduces depression? Whether you get your sunlight outdoors or through a window, sunlight is a mood lifter. This is 1000% Deborah. I have got to have sun. Even in my car, the best car I ever had, it was, I forget, I think they call it something like a moon roof, but this was my Mercedes, okay? And I've never seen another car like this with this roof. So the entire top of the car was see-through. So no matter morning, noon, or night, if there was the moon up above, the stars, the sun, I had light. And it made me feel wonderful.
Yeah, I love that. I was in a Lucid. Have you ever heard the car Lucid?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that where it's like the glass. Yeah, it's so cool. It makes you feel like you're outside without having to deal with the wind and
And
all
it
of
was
that. Yeah,
perfect. I don't think people realize being in a regular car, how dark it is. And then
yeah.
people tint the windows. I mean, some people tint the windows so dark you can barely see out of them. But
It's like driving around the cave.
yes, exactly. You feel like you're
The
in a
cave on
cave.
wheels. I wanted to go back to, she talked about repeating patterns. I think that is like super important
Yes.
because it's so, for me, like I do it without even like knowing I'm doing it. My brain, for some reason, just picks up on patterns and I will somehow subconsciously like just keep repeating them in a room or in a space. But it's so important because it grabs your eye. Maybe a chair will have like a boomerang pattern in it or something. Then the lamp that's across the room will also have that boomerang pattern. But then it also has a black leaf in the shade. Well, then you go to a pillow on the couch that house also has that black leaf pattern in it. Or, it's things that make your eye travel from one piece to the next, and then they all just complement each other and
Yeah.
kind of communicate with each other in a way. I think that's so important. And it's one thing to put a lot of things in a room that you love and put them all together, but if they don't share any of the same attribute, there's colors that are different or it just doesn't work. I think most people who claims to have no opinion about a chair or about a lamp or a paint color or anything like that, if you let him like choose his favorite things for a room, I think there would be some cohesion because we like what we like. We like, certain patterns are pleasing to our eye, and some things are something that's jarring to me might be pleasing to you, and vice versa. So
Right.
I think that you'll always like pick things that are similar that would work together if you really made an attempt at it, because we all have our own that make us feel good.
I think a
So
lot of people have a hard time articulating that, but you know what you like. You know what, when you look at it, if it makes you feel comfortable or awkward, or if the things are so different that they look like they came from two different houses, then you don't want that in your house because it's not going to flow. And the
right.
flow will be off. You won't feel comfortable. Why cohesion is such a major portion of you feeling comfortable in your environment because it just feels naturally right and you're not
Yeah,
fighting with it.
it makes you feel peaceful if you can see
Yeah.
things that are in harmony.
Yes, exactly. And we all need more of that. Going back to this lighting, and it's important to have the cohesion in the lighting too. Lighting, you don't want to have a house that's consistently dark. That's a real mood de-elevator. I mean, that'll put you in the basement of
Yeah.
sadness. So it says here, a persistent lack of sun can trigger sadness or enhance anxiety. Sunlight also seems to energize and motivate humans at home and at work. In the commercial environment, a study reported that daylight was one of the most critical factors increasing sales volume in the retail setting. So it makes people feel like they want to spend money too, which is a good thing. And the airport here in Omaha, they're going to actually open up the new airport for the new checkpoint in February. And you can see all the way through it. It's all glass, and you can see from the front driveway clear through the whole thing. Out the other side, you can look out at the bluffs of Iowa. You can see the river. You can see the runways and the airplanes. And then they're going to have two big lounges on the back of it. So the space feels huge and beautiful. So that will help a lot of travelers who have anxiety at the airport, so they're not feeling claustrophobic either. There's a lot to the psychology here of trying to help people be calm and feel better. So it says here that while there have been many studies demonstrating the psychological and physiological benefits of natural light, one study showed that employees with access to a natural light noticeably outperformed coworkers without sunlight in their workspaces. So again, it's the type of bulb they're putting in the fixture. Additionally, when people had to work using only artificial light, they also showed a qualitative lack of vitality and showed signs of poor sleep. So it really affected their whole mood. When designing your spaces, you need to find ways of introducing as much natural light as possible if you want to improve your mental health. This could mean installing large windows, bifold doors, skylights, and placing your sofa or your desk in a place where you can catch the most light. And I think that's why I love Palm Springs. I love California, any place in California. And I love like Phoenix with the Sonoran Desert. Any space that maximizes sunshine has always drawn me into it.
The thing that I'm always struck with the houses out here are their use of of sunlight. A lot of houses there, even the older houses are there's walls of windows and
Yes.
where you can see the view, but you also get so much light. It really affects your mood. I feel calmer. Being in a dark space can make you feel sort of just like hunched over and like, I don't know. There's something about it. Like sunlight just makes you feel vital and happy. Like you can breathe easier and stand tall.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that can change your mood and emotional state so much. Sunlight. I think it's really important.
I totally agree. The sunlight and the space are my two most important things I have to have. I have to have lots of space and I
Yeah.
need lots of sunshine. So we talked a little bit earlier about color, and now she goes into this whole thing about color. One of the most impactful elements of design on mental health is color, which can alter your mood drastically depending on the main color used in a room. Just as promoting mental health and clarity through design interior goes back thousands of years, color therapy, also known as chromotherapy or color medicine, I like color medicine better,
Yeah, I like that too.
is as old as any other medicine with a history going back centuries. There's research that points to spectrums of color even in affecting different parts of your body. This means its physical and mental effects are essential. Researchers and interior designers have continued to review and revise their positions on the effect of color. In addition to psychological traits and benefits attributed to colors, each color's saturation and brightness are significant components in their emotional powers. Saturation refers to the pureness of the color. For example, a less saturated color may have more gray or black in them. Blue, steel blue, is often saturated than true blue. So steel blue is less saturated because it has more gray in it than a true blue. Think of a true blue, it's really deep and it really kind of draws you in like deep blue water. Brightness is based on the amount of color, the amount of white in the color, or how light a color seems. Bright colors are less saturated. The lighter, Pale tones can have a relaxing effect. For example, true red is associated with anxiety, but a pale blush pink, like you were talking about the light bulbs, that is both less saturated and brighter, is a soothing color. And that's exactly what you said. And you said, yeah, I'd like to see more pink light bulbs.
Huh, I think they should start making them again.
Yeah, maybe that's your next deal. You make pink light
Maybe.
bulbs.
Pink light bulb.
Colors that are deeply saturated and less bright, such as an emerald green, can feel intense or energizing. Now, if you come in my house, you know I have intense colors. Everything is intense. When referring to colors, people refer to reds, yellows, and oranges as warm colors, while greens, blues, and purples are cool colors. These categories are not a coincidence. When we are in rooms that feature warm colors, we feel physically warmer. Cool colors make us feel cooler. That's one of the reasons reds are so popular in the winter, while turquoise and teal are more popular in warm weather. At my Airbnb up on the fourth floor, I have that whole fourth floor painted teal. Feel much cooler. But in
Yeah,
my dining room here, boom, it's bright red.
right.
We got to have heat.
There's a lot of, like we were talking earlier, there's a lot of studies on the effects of colors, even on, and I hesitate saying this because I'm not a doctor or anything, but the advent of red light, that affects, like, it makes you produce collagen.
Right.
Or they've determined that yellow light helps to prevent bacteria on the skin. Blue light does something else I can't remember, like tightens your skin or something. It's light, but it's the color is what is affecting affecting the change or causing whatever outcome. So
Right.
there is science behind all of that. I'm drawn to like calm colors, usually depending on my mood. Sometimes I like a red or a yellow or something. So there's a lot of science behind that, and it's a real thing. Yeah, the colors that you choose for your house can really affect your daily life.
So there was this house today, traditional Midwestern neighborhood, and this person painted their house pink with black trim, black roof, and I'm like, ooh, looks like chiclets, and that licorice looked kind of like
Yeah,
that, or it looked kind of like the 1950s when the bathrooms where they had the pink and black tiles.
yeah,
But it just did not go well with the rest of the neighborhood. It
yeah.
just, curb appeal was not good. It was off-putting versus
Right.
drawing you in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want something like that that's jarring to people or that feels like you're going into like a time warp or a clown's house or something like
And
that.
it would be great if it was in the Caribbean, but in
Yeah,
in Omaha, Nebraska, in a very traditional neighborhood, no.
not all things like that translate from one area to another. It's dependent upon their surroundings.
Exactly.
Uh,
The surroundings are everything. It says here, and of course, each color has associated psychological effects. Decades of research confirm that some colors consistently evoke certain emotional responses, and they are also culturally sensitive. And the pink house we were just talking about is not
yeah,
culturally sensitive. And a biophilic design approach to color is using the natural landscape as inspiration for a cohesive palette indoors. So, again, it's the idea of blending in, bringing that outside in. So, like if you lived in Utah and you had red rocks around you, you might want to use more of those earth tone colors inside the house to blend, to make it cohesive, to make it feel logical, repeated, and flow. The flow would be good.
Yeah, and it also kind of, I think you can, the colors can really make the outside seem more, there's beautiful scenery. We all know that there are places where you can go where everything is just incredible. But most neighborhoods, when you go to them, there's not necessarily like beautiful scenery. You may have a tree in the front yard or something like that. But if you can make the colors complement what you're looking at out the window, I think that can really make a difference. Or even having art that depicts, or not necessarily what your yard is, but what the scenery is around where you live.
Yes.
That can make you feel differently about the scenery or the outdoors, um, and make you really appreciate it.
Well, it even makes the house feel more expensive. Yeah, because it feels like everything's been put together with thought, and it makes it feel like this is expensive because time and effort went into making this all cohesive and livable. And look at the flow. The functionality is excellent. It does that. It's the psychology of it. So now she talks a little bit about blue light. And this is interesting. To understand why decor makes you happy, you have to also understand how the objects in your room are making you unhappy. It's not just the aesthetic qualities of the furniture, the architecture, and even the accent pieces in your home that affect your mind. It's what some of those objects do to us in our most intimate moments. Take light, for example. According to a NIH study, blue light, the kind that computer screens, smartphones, and other electronics emit from the screens, should be approached with caution. Less is more, especially at home while in bed. Because of blue light's short wavelength, the focus is not located in the center of your retina, like normal sunlight, for instance, but rather in the front. In simple terms, blue light is bad for you in high doses. Unfortunately, most electronics use it, including your smartphone. You're probably reading this on right now. I printed mine off. I printed it off, so I'm reading it on white.
You gave yourself a break from the blue light.
Yep. Long exposure time to blue light causes a worsening of visual fatigue and nearsightedness. It's definitely not good in high doses. Blue light also directly affects your quality of sleep. This explains why iPhones have a night shift mode that changes your screen to warmer tones. Most doctors suggest you keep electronics out of your bedroom and to use that space solely for rest. So leave your TV in the living room and turn off your smartphone before you go to sleep. Now, I do none of those things because I'm also a person affected by sound. And I have to have noise at a low, very, very low level to get my brain to come down and rest so I can go to sleep.
Yeah, same here. I need something that's like, I always have a fan because I like the air to move. I need that little bit of sound or from the fan. And then I always fall asleep to the TV.
There you go.
I know you're not supposed to, but I do.
The TV can knock me out in 5 minutes or less.
Especially if I always watch something I've seen before. I always watch Golden Girls or something like that. Like I've seen every single episode. Now, if I fall asleep, I'm not going to miss anything, you know?
My favorite show to fall asleep to is Storage Wars. Yep, that's my favorite show. Now, she goes on to talk about the shape of things. And this is interesting. And this is the last page of her little thing that I printed off. I just felt that the things that I'm reading are things that I could gravitate to and immediately relate to as far as what affects me. It says, even the shape of a table or other furnishings could have an effect. Jagged edges and sharp points are design features that, if overused, can cause anxiety. And I hope that this has been really educational and helpful for anybody who's challenged with design or they want to make their space comfortable and happy. Don't forget to go and glow. Bye for now.
Life should be blue. I want it to be true. Don't want to be trapped, undoing.